let's look at what happens with planes that are tilted, like roofs and stairs, or even roads that slant up or down. This is often confusing to sketchers, but there's a simple logic in perspective that can help you understand how to draw these elements more accurately. In this lesson, you will learn how to use additional vanishing points for sloped surfaces, and also how to use diagonals to find a center and perspective, which is useful for lots of things. I've seen lots of sketchers have a hard time drawing architectural elements that are sloped. They try to copy the angles, but that's really too hard and often doesn't look quite right. So let's take a look at an image from Pike Place Market to understand how sloped surfaces work in perspective. So the first thing to do is to find the vanishing point and the eye level line for just the normal perspective, the shape of the box. So let's do that by extending some lines and finding our vanishing point. So I can start with this edge up here, extend that down. Let's try the one on the floor, extend that. That looks pretty good for a vanishing point. Let's try this side. Yep, I think we found our vanishing point. So that means that's also my eye level when I took this photo. So the eye level line goes right through here. Let's also draw in that back wall. Pretend the stairs aren't even there, because we want to see the shape of the box. And there's where that back wall hits the ground, and there's that back corner. Okay. So here comes the crazy part. Let's do the sloped surface. So think about it. So if you have a box and it's flat, and then the surface pops up, what is that going to do to the vanishing point? It actually pops the vanishing point up. So let's take a look at this. The crazy thing about this is the vanishing point up is directly over the vanishing point that we just found at our eye level. So I'm going to draw a light line up, because I know it's going to be somewhere along this vertical line. So usually what I do when I'm sketching in the field to try and find that vanishing point is I extend a sloping line, and I'm going to go to the one that's sloping the most, right here, and extend that up. And where it intersects the line I just drew directly over my eye level vanishing point is in fact the vanishing point for the slope. Crazy, isn't it? So when a slope goes up and away from you, like these stairs are, the vanishing point also pops up. And the trick is it's directly over your eye level vanishing point. So now we can use that vanishing point up to draw in the rest of the stairs. And really, when I draw stairs, I treat it first as if it were a wedge of cheese. I even ignore the treads and the risers and all the zigzagging up the sides. I really just draw it like a wedge. Makes it much easier. See, look at that. Sure enough, there's a little corner in there too. And then of course where it hits the floor, it's actually going to our eye level vanishing point. So then I would go in and actually just start to draw the treads and the risers in. I don't even figure those out very carefully. I just kind of quickly sketch some horizontal lines, and that seems to suggest stairs pretty well. So let's take a look at how this works in a sketch. This is a sketch I did in Seattle at the Starbucks Roastery building. This is an interior, and let's take a look at how the stairs work in perspective here. So the first thing I would do is, of course, draw the shape of the space, the big shapes, which would be here, here, the floor line that's along here. I'm kind of ignoring that stair for the moment. And then finding my vanishing point, which I'm just going to draw lightly into my sketch. Comes down there. Then I'm going to extend this floor line here. And just to check it, let's see if I got it right with the window mullions. Yep. So the vanishing point is really right about there. So to find the stairs, I first strike a really light line up. Actually, I can even still see it in my sketch. It stayed there all this time. So the light line goes up that way. Then I look at the stairs, and I'm going to measure the angle of the wedge. So I hold up my pencil, I kind of measure that, transfer that to my paper. Usually the one that's furthest out is the most angled, so it's the easiest one to use. Then I draw in that line, that shape, that angle, find where it hits that light line I drew, And there is the vanishing point for my stairs. It is really crazy, but it really works. So for this side, I would use that vanishing point. For the railing, I use that vanishing point. For this railing, I use that vanishing point. And then once I have the wedge drawn in, the wedge of cheese, I can just lightly draw in the lines representing the treads and the risers. And then if I want to, I can actually add that kind of zigzag at the edge of the stairs. And then I added a little paint for the riser, the raised portion. And then I left the top, the tread, white so that it feels like light's hitting it. So that's how stairs worked in this interior sketch. Now let's take a look at the same concept applied to a roof. Let's go to the Alhambra in Spain. Okay, so here you can see there's a tile roof above this main space. And let's see how we can find the vanishing point to draw this roof accurately. So the first thing to do, of course, is find the vanishing point at eye level. If I were to start this sketch, I'm starting with the big shapes, always the big shapes. Then let's extend some lines to find our vanishing point. So I can go to this line, extend that down. Let's try this one, extend that down. I can use this edge of the pool just to double check it. There's our vanishing point, dead center. And that means this was my eye level line. And take a look at the top of the hedges. They are completely flat, true horizontal lines, which means that's exactly where my eye level line was when I took this picture. All right, so there's the vanishing point for the main box, the main space, our vanishing point at eye level line. So to find the vanishing point for the roof, I'm going to draw a light line straight up. Now let's pick an angle and find our vanishing point. So if I go over here to the edge, that's going to probably give me the best angle. And if I'm drawing this in the field, I hold my pencil up, I measure that angle, I transfer it to my paper, extend it, and where it intersects this vertical line is where my vanishing point is for the roof. So remember, tilt up, vanishing point up. All right, let's just double check it over here and see if that really works. If I extend this line, there. So the vanishing point is right about there. So I can now use that vanishing point to draw this entire roof. Typically when I draw tile roofs, I show the valleys. Some people will do this to show a tile roof, but I find it much more helpful to instead make your lines in the direction of the slope using that vanishing point. So I can draw them like this. And the roof just seems to read much better. I actually do that to almost every roof I draw. The other thing I wanted to mention, well, let me just keep going with this. So there you go. They're all using that vanishing point. The other thing I wanted to mention is the thickness of the material at the edge of this roof, which is right in here. So in drawing tile roofs, that edge is really important. You wouldn't want to show that as a straight, heavy, flat line. Again, let's use an expressive line. So it might be something quick like this, or you could just do something like this. It's just kind of an impression of what those tiles are doing at the edge. But they have a thickness, and it's important along this edge to read the texture of the tiles. So then I would probably draw those valleys in, and maybe in places, just draw little scoops, little scallops. Not everywhere, but just in clusters, and then feather them out so that it reads like a tile roof. But that edge, again, the edge is really important for the sense of the material to read. Now let's talk about another tool that's really useful for sketching architecture. And for that, let's go back to the Pantheon in Rome. Maybe you remember in your high school geometry class how you could find the center of a square by using diagonals. We actually use this a lot in sketching as well. So let's take a look at the front of the Pantheon. How would we find that point right at the top of the building, the top of the triangular pediment? We use diagonals. So this is how it works. You draw the shape, the rectangular shape of the face of the building, And this is pretty much a straight on frontal view. I can't really see that corner on the right, but I'm going to draw it in anyway because I want to see the whole big shape. So there it is. So now we strike some diagonals. We go to opposite corners and strike a very light line in our sketch. Oops, let's continue that a little bit. And a very light line here. Then that gives us the center of the face of this building and the point at the top of the building. So at that point, we can just connect corner to peak and corner to peak. Then add the material thicknesses and the overhang of the building. So let's take a look at how this works in perspective. This is a building also in Italy, but this time we're seeing it in perspective. So let's find our vanishing point and then draw our rectangle. All right, I'm going to extend these lines off into the distance. Let's bring it up to the top of that wall. Carry that down. And let's just double check it by connecting these lines. So there's our vanishing point. Here's our eye level line. So the same technique of using diagonals works really well in perspective. It's pretty much the only way you can tell where the center of something is in perspective. So let's draw that rectangle, corner to corner. And now let's try the diagonals. Diagonal there, opposite corners here. I hope this works. Then we pop it up. And sure enough, there's the center in perspective. So then I would draw this, I would draw this, and then of course it projects out just a little bit. So I would add a little piece to the front. So this is a really useful tool for sketching. I use it all the time. And now we're in Cambodia, and we're going to do this as a sketch. But first let's talk about the concepts we've already learned and how to apply them to this view. All right, so let's find the vanishing points for the roof. So the first step is to look at the big shapes at our eye level and find the vanishing point at our eye level. So I extend that line. Let's go up here, extend this line. And that's pretty much where the vanishing point is. So let's draw our eye level line in. Always do that in every sketch. And then we have this shape here. So there are actually a couple of different ways to find this roof edge. We can use the diagonals, like this, and then pop it up to the center and kind of eyeball that angle. And then draw it in. You can hold up your pencil and measure it and then just connect the corners. But let's take a look and see if we can find the vanishing point. So if I extend this line straight up and go to this corner, the one that's farthest, and try and get that line in there. Let's see if that works for our vanishing point. Does it work here? Pretty much. So there's the vanishing point for the slope up on that roof. It's sloping up and away from us. And I can use that vanishing point to show all these little ridges in this corrugated metal roof. But now let's take a look at the back side. What happens when something's sloping down and away from you? Well, just as sloping up and away from you, the vanishing point's up. Vanishing point is up. When it slopes down and away from you, the vanishing point is down. So if we extend this line down to here to where it intersects our vertical, that is actually the vanishing point for the back side of the roofs. So take a look. It works pretty well right there. So that's how we can use the vanishing points to help us with our sketch. Now let's actually do this in a real sketch on paper. So let's draw the foundational lines of this sketch, starting with the big shapes, then finding our eye level and vanishing points. I'm going to start with that corner, and let's approximate that shape. And it's a 2-point perspective, so we have some edges vanishing off to the side here. And in my sketch and on location, I would just hold up my pencil and approximate those views, knowing they're off my page. So there's one. Now let's extend this and see if we can find the vanishing point. So let's create a vanishing point right there. That means our eye level line is right about in here. That goes all the way across the page. All right, so now let's find our roof. I'm gonna do my diagonal here very lightly. Pop it up. So there's the center. Now I'm gonna measure that angle and approximate it on my page. So that would put the vanishing point right here. You know, if it's a lower roof, if the pitch is not so big, the vanishing point would be lower. And if it's a steeper roof, the vanishing point would be higher, up here. And I'm just going to connect these instead of actually going to the trouble of finding my vanishing point down below. And I think it's a little higher or a little lower here. Extend this. Find my corner, which looks to be about right there, and I'm going to use my vanishing point for this back corner. And I'm going to extend this out a little. There. So it's more or less one building. I'm going to give that roof edge some thickness. Same thing here. Give it a little thickness. Now let's see if we can get the building behind it as well. So I can't see all of it, so I'm just using my first building as some reference. Gonna do some diagonals on this side too. Pop it up. Use my vanishing point for the slope. Connect these. And have my roof go off to the vanishing point on the left. And I can kind of spot where that corner is relative to this line, and it looks to be about right there. Let's go back to the vanishing point. Somewhere in there. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. It's important for you to know the concepts of how these additional vanishing points work. That'll already help you in your sketching. Now I'm just going to continue filling in the rest of my sketch. So in this sketch, I've kept things really simple. It was really about showing you how to set up the sketch and using those additional vanishing points for getting the sloped roofs in, and also the diagonals were super helpful. For homework, I'd like you to find a sloped surface to sketch. It could be a roof, an awning, or a set of stairs using the vanishing point that tilts up. In the next lesson, we'll look at some tips and tricks for bringing your sketches to life.